Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to game number 1 of MC versus Stephano. So, this is from Red Bull Battlegrounds, the semifinals, I believe, which just took place a couple weekends ago. And if you guys are watching this, it's actually come up after game number 2, because the replay site from which I downloaded this whole pack numbered them wrong. So when I usually do commentaries, especially at this time of year when I'm very hard pressed for time, I don't really have the time to go and check each game, make sure with Wikipedia and everything that it's in the right order. I mean, to you might think, oh, that might be common logic, especially if you watch the tournament. I did, but I'm not going to be able to remember which game was on which map. So anyway, if you after this video you watch game number 2 and you hear me talking about, oh, this is the first game of the series and so on, it's not. It is the second game. My mistake. I mean, again, as I mentioned in that video, because that video actually theoretically came. I casted it before this one. It is exams for me, so I'm hard pressed for just general casting. I don't have as much time to cast, and although it is a passion of mine, I'll have to put it on the back burner just for a couple weeks, and then I'll be back in full swing. So this is a PvZ matchup, and prior to this game, MC took on Sase, and you might actually hear me allude to this again in game number 2. My apologies, but I'm going to touch upon it because you guys are probably watching this one first. MC beat Sase, and in a pretty exciting PvP, and then he was interviewed right before that matchup, asked, so the winner of this match faces Stephano. MC, what do you have to say? And actually, no, he was just asked, MC, anything else you have to say? And MC says, in his accent, we are Brotos from Ire, and as long as the winner beats Stephano, I'm happy. So he really wanted to beat Stephano entering this matchup. So PvZ, I'd say, is pretty solid for MC, but Stephano is just such an overall fantastic foreign player. So regardless of how strong this matchup is for MC, he's still going to have some sort of a challenge on his hands. He's going to actually be going for this Forge Fast Expand, this one probe, carrying minerals. Not sure if that's really the best idea. I always get upset at people when they have their one scout probe or even just a probe building something with minerals in its hands. It could be that little extra bonus minerals that you never know when they could be important. So Stephano has just gone for this Idra style build, the pool. Hatch, well, pool first actually, and then hatch, but to my knowledge, I mean, this hatchery does take much longer to finish than the pool, but that traditional timing of your pool hatch pool, that's fairly standard Zerg opener, and unless you're playing ZVZ, where you go with that fast spawning pool into the natural again, but then you get the Banewing Nest right away, and then into Roach Warren. It's funny, I like watching ZVZ. You can go all the way back and check out my Slivko versus Hyun matchup, because I've watched more ZVZ recently, and there's just so much. There's always the initial just expand once or twice, and Stephano is actually going for the third, and then they go into the pool, Banewing Nest, Roach Warren, and tech up almost identically. Anyways, Stephano, I believe, is going to have vision on this. He does have the Zelnaga Tower, but hasn't really seen much of the fast expand at all. He's trying to get his overlords into position, but he still does not know that his Protoss opponent has decided to kind of go more macro mode. So Stephano, I mean, predictably, is going with the 3 base opener, and is just going to get himself well established on these three bases, hopefully saturating them. But MC is going to scout this fast third, so he does have all the information he wants. He's going to pull out and know that his opponent is going very, very heavy early game macro. And if I were in MC shoes, I would potentially expect a very strong timing push with probably a bundle of roaches, which are powerful early game versus Protoss. So MC really has to be careful and warp in enough units, because in my PvZ personally, I mean, of course, I'm not a pro, but I see a lot of Protoss players do this even at a high level. When they go for that fast expand, they don't get enough units, and they are left susceptible to these strong Zerg timing pushes off 2 or 3 bases. So now Stephano only now is getting that gas, so he's really just focused on his minerals to get his queens and drone up, and now he's going to go for the double gas on his main. Nothing at the natural just yet, or the third, but we actually do see a Stargate coming from MC, and not even a proxy. And I was actually thinking that, but I figured it might be a little irrational to suggest MC go for that Stargate, predicting that early Roach pressure. And there's the Roach Warren, so MC that you have my applause, because wow, that's some excellent Korean style prediction play. He guesses the Roach Warren is coming and this heavy 3-base timing push. He still is behind in population, and let's check the R income tab. He's behind only 7 in harvesters, to be honest. So, well, now 10 because of that whole eggs hatched, but 10 harvesters is quite a deficit, but when he's at 7 and he's 2 bases to 3, that's not too significant if you're taking into account the amount of workers you can actually get on one base to saturate it. So now we do have this overlord positioning, only going to see the assimilators, but Stephano does know his opponent has likely opted for 2 gases on each of his bases, so now Stephano has actually established 1 gas at his natural, and he's going for 1 at his third, so he will now build 1 macro hatch and an evo chamber, get metabolic boost, and just build up this zergling force with probably some roaches to come fairly soon. Does not have any on the field quite yet, but he does have that roach worn down and missile attacks level 1, so he's really going for the upgrades first. And now let's see if MC is going to reveal this Stargate. He actually saw the chrono boost, I believe, but couldn't really see what kind of a building it was. And so MC is going for Phoenixes now. He has 1 Void Ray, multiple Phoenixes. That's very useful against Queens when a Protoss player is going for a timing attack against Zerg early game. So I personally like to go through it for a 3-gate robo timing push before my opponent can get to layer tech. But MC is opting for this intelligent Stargate play, which is a lot more difficult to execute in my opinion. But on that same note, Stephano does have a significant population advantage, and you do see right here there was a little bit of a pause necessary, but these Phoenixes are now going to be revealed, so I don't know if that's actually the best time and place for MC to reveal his whole Stargate, because if you're Stephano right here, he has his Overlords and Overseers under attack, but he's already got this Warcrawler up, so predicting that Stargate quite wisely so, but MC's quite significantly behind, and I don't know. I mean, he did establish the Stargate, but his ground army just may not be sufficient enough to hold off against Stephano's inevitable push. So, I mean, MC has strategized, right? But like I said, PvZ not making enough units. He's pumped off this 1 Stargate, but he's already now going into that Dark Shrine. He did build a Twilight Council. I was in the heat of covering the Phoenix play, so I did not have the time to bring that to you, but now he's going to try to bust this front door down with his Lings and Roaches, actually moving over to the 3rd location. Now MC's going to see every little bit of this, so he does not have too much to hold this off with a lot of Zealots, but they aren't going to fare very well against this Roach heavy force, so the Phoenixes are going to be fairly good, but it's just like clawing your nails on a chalk wall. I don't even know if that's the right metaphor, but I mean, it's agonizingly slow trying to kill their ground armies with Void Rays. It does work well in timing attacks just because they have absolutely no anti-air, but I mean, it still takes a while, even for Phoenixes, especially when they're targeting Overlords. They were kind of like Corsairs, actually. They took a very long time to kill Overlords. And so now MC has actually gone into Dark Templar, but I don't know if he remembers there's a Sport Crawler at the mineral line of MC, an Overseer near MC's base, and another Sport Crawler right here, so that's not actually the best play, and that could be a heavy overinvestment for MC. The Dark Shrine takes a long time to finish. It requires that Twilight Council tech, which may not always be chosen from Protoss players in this early game PvZ, but I mean, MC can still benefit from this charge blink, pretty much charge lot Archon, and does he have 2 Twilight Councils? Because, oh no, never mind, no, I was mixing up blink and charge. I was mixing up charge with the weapons upgrade. So he has finished his 2-0, and I don't know if that's, I would rather him go for 1-1 in my opinion, because he would actually have more survivability if his odds are a little bit less numerically. But he is going to have to target down this Sport Crawler before he can take some serious health damage. He's going to take 20 health damage, but that's fine for a Void Ray because he still will regenerate shields. But this Sport Crawler is going to burrow, and that's going to probably force the Void Ray away. Yes, it will from MC. He's going to take a lot of damage, and now actually a fungal on the Protoss air units could be devastating. These Phoenixes completely compromise the Queens, hitting them as they're trapped in place, and MC's actually going to lose a lot of resources there. 1950 to 1350. He's only lost 9 units, but you see that's the cost of Stargate units, 1950 to 1350, even though his numbers are nowhere near Stephano's 9 to 21 or something. So he is actually going for a DT drop as he faces this main army with his charge lots. No Archons though. You do see charge lot Archon, but he's actually just gone for charge lot DT drop. I did notice that robotics facility, and now actually going to be a Robo Bay while Stephano goes to Spire. So they are fairly comparable armies actually. Let's see how many units we have on the field. 17 charge lots, 7 blink stalkers, 4 sentries, but a lot of lings and a pretty significant amount of roaches with a lot more hatching. So now MC's going to try to force field, but Stephano's been able to get a lot of infested Terrans out. But now here come the DTs, and there's no detection at the natural. So MC did not hit the third, but he wisely hit the natural that had absolutely no detection. He's now going to have to force field here and escape from the infested Terrans. They are not quite dead yet. They still have about 10 seconds of their lifespan left. So now these charge lots are going to snipe off this hatchery, and the DTs actually now targeted, but they did kill quite a lot of drones. 16 workers killed for MC, so he's actually been able to largely even this out. But for Stephano, he has to push right now, and that's exactly what he's doing, mobilizing his force. I don't know if he's sending drones in there or not, but MC did a ton of harass damage, but he has nothing of a main force. That's all he has, is just a handful of stalkers and charge lots, and in comparison to this huge 173 population, Roach, Ling, Infester, Force, I mean, you do have to discount the Harvesters, but I think this is pretty imposing, if you ask me. Is mobilizing across the map, ready to crush MC, but he will have to micro like a god to actually be able to hold this one off and not drop game one. We can just see the sheer production of Stephano. He just has some 9 elements, all from units to upgrades to researches, and now 3 Corruptors. He did, I believe, want to just scout with those Lings for the Colossus, giving it free, well, splitting between the two of them, free 4 kills. They do actually have 3 weapons, but when you're facing against Corruptors, often Protoss players have trouble focusing down the Corruptors because they do not want their Stalkers to be... You don't want your Stalkers focusing on air units when they're dying to ground forces, right? So the Corruptors are usually just eventually going to kill your Colossi, but it's how long they survive. So as I touched on earlier, I would recommend MC not go for 3 weapons, but rather shields or armor, because he wants his units who are numerically disfavored to survive longer. I mean, this still is crazy to have 21 damage on your thermal lances with the extra range and 13, 17 damage for your stalkers, but I mean, it comes down to that survivability factor, and Stephano's actually over his population cap. He's 201 over 200. I think he was building a spine crawl. He's doing that spine crawler trick where you build a spine crawler, build units while you have the population, and then cancel all your spine crawlers and get the drones back. I don't know if that was intended or not, but now actually MC was trying to establish a proxy power, and I don't know what happened. Does he still have that War Prism? No, he must have lost it when attempting to drop. I love using War Prisms as mobile reinforcement, but if Stephano can actually snipe these Colossi, well, there's the Blink Stalkers blinking up and actually trying to pick them off. One of the Colossi is going to inevitably die, and a lot of infested Terrans going down in addition to Fungals, and these Colossi have just been completely negated, and that's just so much money lost. 12,200 resources. Again, he's lost about half the units, but because he's a Protoss player, they generally have very expensive units. Stephano's just going to take up to Greater Spire just because he can. He's mining off 5 bases. Quite common for Zerg in the late game, and MC is just going to be forced back. Not looking good for him to win this game. He is now making that War Prism, but he's going to have to force field very well, and I don't even think he has any sentries at the moment. Only 1 Colossus and just a bunch of Blink Stalkers, so they are all going to try to maybe try to aggressive Blink and take out some Corruptors, but I do not think MC has the kind of force for that. And let us check out our army supply. I actually had to check the hotkey for a second there, just to look at that 114 to 56 army supply. So I just think Stephano has got too big a lead by negating those Phoenixes. That was a very crucial moment in this game. And look at that resources bank, 2,600 minerals and 1063 gas. Crazy amounts of resources, and he's still producing a ton of units, researchers, upgrades, and he even actually ran some units into the main here. That Zergling looks quite fat from here. I don't know why. It just looks really, really thick. So he ran all of his forces into the main. So I just think from MC's standpoint, the Dark Shrine was fairly efficient. It did snipe a lot of workers, but it was quite an overinvestment that early in the game because he got behind in units. He was behind from the beginning of the game almost, ever since he chose that Stargate. So I'll leave you guys with this picture of the fallen. That's actually pretty awesome. The picture of the fallen stalker. The rest know their fate is inevitable. The roaches just laying siege. One of them just died. All the infested Terrans standing around. So guys, hope you enjoy the gruesome picture of the end of this battle. Stephano goes up 1-0 in this best of 5 series. Hope you enjoyed. Goodbye.